All right, a couple of weeks ago, we all saw the report from Mac Engel of the Fort Worth Star-Telegram that both TCU and Houston were very close to getting an invite to the Pac-12. Now, I know many of you have disputed the validity of that report, but I did get a chance to talk to Mac Engel and allow him to explain, justify, and back up his reporting. So I figured I would allow you guys the opportunity to hear that and get that content. Also, Mac does a really nice deep dive into Houston and the potential for success in the Big 12 and what the future might hold for Houston on down the road. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please, I would encourage you to do so. I talk college football every single day on this channel. Right now, that means conference realignment. Every single day on this channel, I aim to give the Big 12 a voice. All right, without further ado, here is Mac Engel backing up his reporting about TCU and Houston. See what you think. All right, so how close did TCU and Houston come to getting that Pac-12 invite before the league ultimately decided not to expand right now?
Pretty close. I don't think it was necessarily, oh, here's the contract, and then they yanked it off the table. But I think when the Pac-12 did consider expansion and they did their own consulting work, et cetera, they came up with, okay, we have to get in the central time zone, because I think everybody knows that is a tremendous challenge for the Pac-12, is that you've got all of these games that start so late in the East Coast and the central time zones that they're just missing out on all this potential exposure, which is what it's about, right? And it's hard for people to, I mean, I love the Pac-12 after dark, but that means I'm staying up until 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in the central time zone. In these time zone, which is where a huge portion of the population of the United States lives, they can't stay up that late. And especially they're not going to stay up that late to watch games that they don't really have any kind of ties to. It's one thing if you're staying up really late to watch a team that you're invested in and it's right down the street. It's quite another to make that same kind of time commitment to a team that's on the other side of the United States. So the big draw is the central time zone, and that's what they're going to do. They are going to do that because that's really their last chip to play without doing anything just crazy. Is, okay, we can go to the central time zone. Houston is an enormous city. The university is and they all lie through their teeth about this, but Houston is a research one academic institution, so they can sit there and tell themselves that academics matter, which we know it doesn't. TCU is in Dallas-Fort Worth, even though TCU is a really small school. It's less than 10,000. It does not draw well because small schools don't draw well that aren't named Notre Dame. And they can do that for their next contract. And I do think that's going to happen. I think it won't happen for another year or so, but I think that's going to happen. Will it work? Yeah, I think it'll work in the sense that all of these contracts now are 8 to 10 year windows, and that's it. So I think what we'll eventually see in the next, I guess starting about 2030, 31, I think you'll see colleges look at each other and say, okay, we got to go with another round of cuts. And you'll see the smaller schools, Wake Forest, Duke, maybe Northwestern, I don't know. There's going to be you're going to see a lot of politicking involved in this, because small schools are going to do everything they can to try to remain a part of this, because all of these big schools are saying, wait a minute, why are we sharing this revenue with you? And we're still a number of years away from that, and it'll depend on what TV wants to do, and they're driving the boat on it. But I do think the Pac-12's next move will be to add to, and what they need to do is get kickoff times earlier, and the best way to do that is to get in the central time zone.
Well, this may be an impossible answer to really ascertain at this point, especially with a new commissioner of the Pac-12 that, everybody has to feel out here like what his motivations are, right? But what if it's going to be a year down the road where they do add TCU and Houston? Why right now was the answer no, and the answer would be yes in a year?
Because they don't have to. I mean, their contract isn't up for, I think, 2 years, so you're not going to really think about doing it for another year. I think the red flag to me, when the dots sort of connect, is when I had read that Kirby Hocutt, the athletic director at Texas Tech, I think he told Dennis Dodd at CBS Sports, or maybe he told Don Williams of the Lubbock Avalanche Journal, I can't remember who specifically, that he did not think the Big 12 was done expanding. And in my own estimation, they're not done expanding because they think they're going to lose these schools. So you bring them in now, and maybe it'll hold tight. But all this stuff now is so temporary that I think anybody who goes through expansion, especially when you're not the SEC, you realize this is all probably kind of temporary, and we'll see how this sets. I think the reason the Pac-12 didn't do it right now because they don't have to. And, I just can't see them sitting tight in their given situation. When they signed their contract, it was the biggest contract ever signed. That was 2011. Well, it's changed a lot. Now we're seeing the SEC make crazy numbers. The Big Ten is making crazy numbers. The ACC is doing well. Well, what you want to be, as long as you're in Power 5, you're fine. As long as it's a Power 5 and not 4, you're okay. And I think the Pac-12 is going to make some move to try to do that. And they're asked, how do you do it? Well, you get into markets. I don't know if it really works or not, but that's what they're going to convince themselves, and they're going to do it. And so now you've got USC kicking off at 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock as opposed to 9 o'clock, and you have a round of those possibilities to try to make your brand a little bit more attractive. Why didn't they? And I think to answer your other question, why they didn't do that right now, he's a new commissioner. He's not from the sports world. He's mostly from entertainment. He worked at MGM for a long time. And I do think there are some university presidents out west that you're going to have to do some campaigning and lobbying. But as one university president told me, this is all about revenue now. This isn't about academics. This isn't about being affiliated with religious schools or anything like that. This is about maximizing revenue. And most of them, if not all of them, realize that is the way of the world, and that's the way it's going to have to be.
Yeah, totally agree with you on that front. Mac, before I let you go, I mean, you're closer to Houston, obviously, than I am. Whether it's in the Big 12 or the Pac-12, just in a Power 5 league, Power 5-ish league, how successful do you think they can be? Is that really a sleeping giant kind of school?
Oh, I don't know. They'll tell you. Of course, they always lie through their teeth. They'll tell you they can be. I think the best comparison is Louisville. They're similar schools in terms of they're state schools, but they're city schools. So you have a large commuter population. They've poured in a ton of money into that athletic department, into the university. It's a much more attractive place now. They built a medical school. So they have points of attraction within the city and points of sale, so to speak. How competitive can they be? Men's basketball will be fine. Kelvin Sampson's a really good coach. You can put him in any league, and he's going to put you together a good team. I don't know about football. There's a ton of talent there. That's a major, massive metropolitan area. And can Dana Holgerson keep those players from leaving to A&M, UT, TCU, whatever? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be hard. But they've certainly made the financial commitment to do it. And now, remember, Dana Holgerson was at a Big 12 school, and then he left to take a job to an American Athletic Conference school. That was a real shock because he was going to get paid more at Houston than he would at West Virginia. And that's one of the reasons I think Houston was added to the Big 12 is that they have spent a lot of money on coaches and facilities. So they say, okay, well, this is kind of consistent with where we are and want to be. Can they be a power and anything like that? It's not even about being a power. They're not going to win national championship. Although, Baylor won a championship in men's basketball, so I guess you can say, oh, anything's possible. The question is, can you be competitive? Can you be competitive? Can you strengthen your university and your conference by being pretty good and pretty competitive and being part of the Power 5? If you've done that, then you've succeeded. If you win a championship, it's gravy. Can they do it? It's going to take some time. But they've made the commitment, and I think at a minimum, they can be a thorn to major powers.
All right, please follow me on Twitter at JL Kurtz. You can follow me on Instagram and TikTok. It's John Kurtz Show. I would appreciate you guys giving me the support there, and certainly appreciate all of you here at the channel right now. Do subscribe if you haven't. I talk college football every day, conference realignment every day, and give the Big 12 a voice right here on the channel. Take care, and I'll talk to you guys soon.